A beekeeper in Ohio opened up a hive that had gone quiet for the winter. Inside, wedged into a corner, was something that looked like a small, dark, leathery sculpture. At first glance, nobody could tell what it was. Then someone looked closer. It had a tail. It had teeth. It had been a mouse. And it had been perfectly preserved for months by something the bees made themselves. Let's back up and figure out how a mouse ends up inside a beehive in the first place. It happens more often than you'd think, especially heading into winter. A beehive is warm, dry, sheltered, and packed with food. To a mouse looking for somewhere to survive the cold, it looks like the perfect place to move in. Free heating, a fully stocked pantry, and what the mouse assumes is an empty unit. The problem is the bees are already living there, and they are not interested in roommates. Honeybees defend their hive aggressively. A mouse that pushes its way inside gets stung repeatedly by dozens of bees at once. Bee venom is potent enough that a sustained, coordinated attack can kill an animal many times the size of a single bee. So the mouse dies. Lease terminated immediately. No refund on the deposit. And now the colony has a different problem. A dead mouse left to rot inside a hive is a disaster. Decomposition brings bacteria, mold, and the kind of smell that attracts even more pests. For a colony trying to survive winter in an enclosed space with limited airflow, a rotting body a few feet from their food stores could be catastrophic. Worker bees can carry out small debris, dead bees, bits of wax. They cannot carry out something the size of a mouse. It's too heavy, too awkward, and the hive entrance is too small. There is no version of this where a bee just drags the body out by its tail. So they don't remove it. They do something else instead. Bees produce a substance most people have never heard of, made from tree resin, beeswax, and their own saliva. It's sticky, dark, and incredibly versatile. Bees normally use it to patch cracks in the hive, seal gaps, and reinforce weak structural points. It's called propolis, and it has a property that turns out to matter a great deal in this situation. It's powerfully antibacterial and antifungal. When bees can't remove a dead intruder, they cover it. Layer after layer, they coat the entire body in propolis until it's completely sealed off from the rest of the hive. This isn't a quick patch job. Beekeepers who have found these encased bodies describe a process that clearly took sustained, deliberate effort from many bees working together over time. Somewhere in there, several thousand bees collectively decided this was now a group project, and nobody got a vote. The result is something that looks less like an accident and more like a procedure. The mouse is fully enclosed, every surface coated, every gap sealed. No air gets in. No bacteria gets a foothold. No smell escapes to alert predators or attract pests. The propolis essentially shuts down the decomposition process before it can really begin. And it works for a remarkably long time. Beekeepers have found these mummified mice intact a year or more after they were sealed. The bodies are dry, dark, completely odorless, and structurally still intact. Fur, tail, even the skull, all preserved in roughly the shape they died in. Nothing scavenged it. Nothing broke it down. The propolis did exactly what bees needed it to do, just on a body far larger than anything they normally use it for. The bees, for what it's worth, did not seem especially impressed with themselves about any of this. Here's where this gets stranger than most people expect. The technique bees are using, sealing a body in a resin-based substance to halt decay, is not a new idea in the history of life on Earth. But it is an old idea in the history of humans trying to preserve their dead. Ancient Egyptian embalmers used resin extensively in mummification. Tree resins were applied to the body, sometimes mixed with other substances, specifically because they had the same antibacterial and preservative qualities that propolis has. Egyptian embalmers refined this process over centuries, layering resin, wrapping linen, controlling the environment the body would rest in. It was an elaborate, deliberate technology developed by specialists who passed the knowledge down for thousands of years, with ceremonies, priests, and an entire belief system attached to it. Bees skipped all of that and got the same result with no ceremony whatsoever. Bees did not develop this technique through millennia of cultural transmission. There's no equivalent of an embalming tradition passed between generations of hive workers. Nobody is training a new generation of bees in the ancient art of sealing things shut. The behavior is instinctual, a built-in response to a problem that, evolutionarily speaking, has probably been recurring for as long as bees have lived in defensible enclosed colonies. Something gets in. Something dies. The colony seals it before it can cause harm. That's it. No ritual, no specialists, no accumulated knowledge, just a chemical solution to a sanitation problem, repeated automatically every time the situation arises. And yet the outcome looks remarkably similar to what human civilizations spent generations refining. Resin, sealing, preservation, the same basic chemistry, arrived at by two completely different paths, one through careful human experimentation across centuries, the other through evolutionary pressure acting on an insect colony with no concept of death, decay, or preservation as ideas. Just a problem and a built-in solution. Humanity took several thousand years and an entire religious framework to get here. Bees took one bad winter and some leftover tree sap. This is sometimes called mummification, even by entomologists, because that's genuinely the closest word for what's happening. The mouse isn't fossilized. It isn't freeze-dried. It's chemically sealed against decay using a substance the bees were already producing for an entirely different purpose, deployed at a scale they don't normally need. There's a reason this matters beyond the simple strangeness of it. Propolis has been studied for its antimicrobial properties in human medicine for years, and some researchers have pointed to exactly this kind of behavior. Bees instinctively recognizing and counteracting decay-causing bacteria as one of the clearest natural demonstrations of just how effective the substance actually is. If propolis can stop a mouse from decomposing for over a year inside a warm, humid hive, that tells you something concrete about what it's capable of. Somewhere, a wellness influencer is already planning a propolis serum. So the next time you see a beehive, calm, humming, productive, consider what might be sealed inside one of its corners. Not a mistake. Not a failure of the colony's defenses. A solved problem. A small, accidental mummy made by insects that have never heard of Egypt, never invented a single ritual, and never once stopped to admire their own work.